Stars of track and field you are. Stars of track and field you are. The stars of track and field are beautiful people.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second Let'sRun.com podcast of 2019. This is our second in a row after agreeing to make it a weekly thing. So we're 2 for 2. So let's see if we can keep that streak going. We got a lot to talk about this week. We had the Houston Half Marathon last weekend. We've got some great track action this weekend in Boston at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. We've got what was the world's richest half marathon in Dubai coming up on Thursday night for our American fans. We've got the meet at the Armory, the Dr. Sander invite. And at the end of the podcast, we're going to get to our threads of the week and some exclusive audio from the Nike 4% shoe. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to all that, we have some distressing news. This is Jonathan Galt, by the way, one of your co-hosts. And I'm going to be joined by Let'sRun.com co-founders Robert and Weldon Johnson. And yeah, we heard some disturbing news this morning from Robert right before we were beginning the podcast. He's trying to kick a coke habit. Robert, are you okay?
I've got bad news, folks. I've been unable to do it, and I'm going to do it right on air. The Coca-Cola is too hard to kick. I said I like to drink beer during the podcast. Coke, I think I'd rather give up beer than Coke. And there you go. You heard me just start drinking it on air. I apologize.
We're glad you're okay, Robert. That's the big thing. And, addiction's tough. So maybe next week. I
had a Coke during the pre-show we were talking about. Y'all heard me open that one. This could be potentially a National Bohemian beer, the beer of Baltimore. I don't want to confess. I think I might have family members listening. Well, I know Weldon's listening, but, people that actually.
And Weldon, we were debating whether you were going to take the Floyds of Leadville, one of our sponsors, whether you were going to take one of their CBD supplements during the podcast. Have you decided on that?
Yeah, last podcast we said we should, test out the Floyds of Leadville CBD products. I've never had one, and you guys made it sound like it was like smoking a joint, but these things are designed for recovery. So I have there's like creams here I can rub on. My back's bugging me. I had to go do not a CrossFit workout with my wife, but I must admit I'm a bit sore. Or there's like a oil I can put underneath the tongue. You guys want me to do that one? That one probably be a little more quick acting. See how I feel.
Yeah, if you, I would say that one. Try that one maybe.
Okay, here it is. 600 milligrams hemp oil, full spectrum select CBD.
So hopefully you feel better by the end of the podcast.
Floyds of Leadville, if you're interested in recovery products, CBD recovery products, check them out. Use code Let'sRun10 to get 10% off. All right, here goes the CBD hemp oil going underneath the tongue. Okay, good to go.
Well, I think we should.
If you're a younger viewer, please understand Weldon never had a drink till he was like 22, 23 years of age. That's why he ran fourth in the country. So be a straight lace, please. Thank you.
Good, solid advice, Robert. All right. Well, I think let's start with Houston, since that one was the most recent event to occur. There's a lot to talk about there. Emily Sisson obviously ran really well. There was a really dramatic ending to the men's race, three-way kick at the end, and obviously the wrong turn by Jamal Yima, and that sort of threw things off, allowing Shira Kitata to come through for the win. Really exciting finish there. But is that what you guys want to talk about? Do you guys want to talk about the sub 210 possibilities?
I think we talk about Houston, but we don't need to talk about the winners. I'm not trying to be xenophobic or anything, but everybody knows Shira Kitata is a stud. Bridget Koskei, she very well. I'm already excited for the London Marathon. She may be the best in the world right now. She's just in form and doing so well. But to me, obviously, predominantly American audience, I think we should talk about the Americans. Emily Sisson, she talked big going into the race about Molly Huddle's American record possibly getting it. That seemed extreme. If you look at her track credentials, she's run 15:02, I think, for Sisson, whereas Huddle's like a 14:40 person. You're like, why would she be able to do that? And yet she came within 5 seconds of the record. So an amazing showing for Sisson, lived up to the hype. And I really think the question for her is, guys, where do we think she goes? It's come out last week also that she's going to be running London. So what is the over-under on her performance? John, I think you've got a number.
Yeah, I set the over-under at 2:23 flat. And that is the exact time that Jordan Hasay ran in Boston in her debut in 2017. And that's also the fastest debut marathon by any American women. So you could make the argument that that's very aggressive, that saying putting the debut record as the over-under is a bit too much of an ask. But here's the thing. We've seen this sort of thing before. Ryan Hall, 2007 Houston Half Marathon, he comes out and runs 59:43, and then he runs what I believe is the fastest debut marathon ever by an American in London 3 months later, 2:08. So I don't think it's ridiculous to say that based on this performance, where again, she ran 5 seconds off the fastest half marathon ever by an American woman. She ran significantly faster than what Hsay was running before Boston 2017. And she's running on a fast race course in London where she'll have someone to run with pretty much the whole way, you would think, in Molly Huddle or close to it. I don't think it's outrageous to put the debut record as the over-under. What say you guys?
I think that's a good mark to put it out there. This is Weldon Johnson, by the way. It's, curious what she can do. Like Jordan Hsay was meant for the marathon. We've heard Sisson was meant for the roads before she ever ran a road race out of college. People were saying, like, watch her in the long distance stuff. So it's very exciting. And with Hsay having been injured the last 2 years, someone of that next generation to sort of step up with Shalane Flanagan, Des Linden getting up there in age, and they've won their majors, and we need the next generation to come along. And also, we're talking about someone who was fifth in the race in Houston. So the Kenyan women and Ethiopian women are turning to the roads. They're pushing the sport to a new level. And I feel like it's sort of like maybe where the men's sport was like 10 years ago. So it might be even harder for Emily Sisson. If she runs 2:22 in London, she's going to probably be 4 minutes behind, 5 minutes behind the winner.
Well, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I think that for a number of years, people have sort of been wondering why American women are relatively better at the marathon than American men. And I thought perhaps it was because American men are too tall. 6 feet tall. A lot of American men is much taller than the average elite marathoner, whereas the women, there's not as big as a height discrepancy. But perhaps it could be just the fact that there aren't as many, Africa to this point is still pretty much male dominated. It's becoming less and less so. So as more and more women start competing in Africa, it could be that the norm, I mean, look at last year, we had like 6 women break 2:19 in the marathon. It could be the norm that these races are starting to be won in women's races are run in 2:17, 2:18, 2:16. That's your 2:03, 2:04, 2:05. So then an American woman who runs, 2:20, 2:21, even 2:22, that's like your 2:09, 2:10, 2:11. It's a good time for an American, but not really that competitive on the world stage. That's really interesting. I hadn't quite thought about that because it's a good time, but there's going to be people way faster than her in London. But I do think the 2:23 is a good thing for Sisson. I mean, by the way, well, let me correct you. You talked about her being the new generation. She's 21 days younger than Jordan Hsay. So they're basically the same generation, but I think Hsay is a
same generation. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
They're the new generation, both of them.
And I think that, Hsay sort of was made for the roads, and I think she's a good comparable because Sisson has a 31:25 10,000 PR. Hsay's a 31:39. 5K, it's 15:02 versus 15:28. So Sisson definitely can run that. But I don't think it's a guarantee. I mean, the reason why I think she's going to do something like that, and I would say she'll be under at halfway, let's put it that way, is because Ray Tracy told me I think it was 2014 in Boston. He's like, look, she's going to be amazing at the marathon. And Ray knows what he's talking about. And we've seen it at the half marathon. Until it's done, it's just speculation. And one reason, there's actually an illustrative person from Houston. I'm going to mention a name, John. I'm going to test your knowledge. John, folks, is a genius about running. He's a good memory. John, does the name Buze Dariba mean anything to you? She ran.
Yeah,
Houston.
I mean, she's a great road racer. I think she beat Molly Huddle. She's beaten her several times on the roads. Really outstanding road racer at the lower distances. She made her debut in Houston, and I didn't see a name in the results. I don't think she did very well, right?
Wow, John is really good, folks. So Buze Dariba is an Ethiopian. She's probably beaten. The reason why I mentioned her, she won the United Airlines New York City half last year, just out kicking Emily Sisson. So Sisson was second, Dariba was first. Dariba is 24 years of age. Officially, her PRs are 14:50 for 5,000, so that's better than Sisson. Well, I guess on the 10,000 it's 31:33, so she's only run a couple. Well, she's actually run 2, so that's actually slower than Sisson. But anyway, she made her, and she's run 66:50 for the half marathon last year in Houston last year, so that's 40 seconds faster than what Sisson ran this year, right? But she debuted in Houston. It wasn't terrible, but it was only 2:28.06 for 4th place. So we can't say, because she's done this in the half, she's definitely going to run as a runner equally, probably a little bit better than Sisson. And she's 2:28.
Of course. Any other points on the women's race in Houston, or should we move on to the men?
I want to talk about the men. I mean, I think that, we know who won, but from an American standpoint, guys, what we were talking a lot last time was we spent these questions and I think we should have some more questions this week. Will an American man break 2:10 this year? And I said no, unless Leonard Carrera runs a marathon. After Houston, I'm doubling down on that. I mean, is there anything from Houston that was really encouraging from an American standpoint? I mean, there were some, don't get me wrong, John, right? There were some good runs, some PRs.
Yeah, I mean, Reed Fisher's run was pretty impressive. He's, unsponsored guy running with the 10-man elite, and he ran 62:08, I believe. He was the top American finisher. And he was fourth at USA's on the track in the 10,000 last year. That's 62:06. I'm sorry. I shorted him 2 seconds. Definitely a good run for that guy. He's only 23, but the idea that anything, and when the top guy in Houston's running 62:06, that's fine. But there was no one in Houston who I was really thinking, oh man, like this is going to be the guy to do it. I guess Shadrach Biwott is the best marathoner in that field. He DNF'd. He was tripped and fell at the start of the race, so it's not really a fair assessment. But I wasn't really expecting to be blown away by any of the results in Houston, and I wasn't. 62:06, that's a fine run, but it's not going to get people really excited about whether this guy can break 2:10.
Right, and that's what I was thinking. I mean, if you look at, Fisher was the top American, but he wasn't sort of the top non-African. I mean, Patrick Tiernan beat him by close to a minute. And Dewey Griffins of Great Britain. I mean, if you want to see what a 2:09 looks like, Griffins has a 2:09.49 PR from Frankfurt, and he beat America's best by 22 seconds. So he was running in the 61:40s. And if you really look at the equivalency charts, John Kellogg's chart has a 2:10. It's sort of under 61:30. McMillan has it at 61:46. So, I know the conditions weren't great. Maybe they can do it, but if someone had run where Patrick Tiernan had run in Houston, I'd be confident that, yeah, maybe they can break 2:10. Right now it's more of a hope and a prayer, and it's looking like some more 2:12s and 2:13s. And speaking of 2:13, guys, we did have a 2:13, right, in the marathon. Tyler
Jerman.
Is that how you say it, Jerman?
German? I would say Jerman is how I would pronounce that name. Not entirely sure. Never met him.
We have a confession. Had anyone ever heard of Tyler Jerman before this weekend?
I think I had, because I was really into DieStat my senior year of high school, and I basically knew everyone who was I'd at least heard of everyone who was in either the class, my graduating high school class, or the class after me, just from looking at results of different state meets. So the name definitely sprung. It sounded familiar, from 10 years ago or something, but I don't know anything else about him. I know he's married, and his wife also is one of the top Americans in the women's race. So in Houston.
What training group? We got to give a shout out. This guy has improved so much. He's only 26. He ran 2:22 in his debut in Chicago 2015. Then he ran 2:18 in Houston in 2016. 36 in the Olympic trials, 2:24. This is all 4 marathons in 2016. Then a 2:20, then a 2:20, another 2:16 and 2017. 23 marathons last year, 2:16, 2:19, 2:19. And then he runs a 3-minute PR, 2:13.29. So this is his 11th marathon, and he PRs by a lot. So really good stuff. John, where's he training?
He trains with Team USA Minnesota.
Wow, good stuff. But I'm going to read you. You look him up until his job site. His college times aren't even there. And Weldon's like, how can that be? And I'm like, well, because I've looked them up. This guy is a blue collar workhorse. So guys, he ran at Iowa State. Looks like he graduated in 2015. Weldon, well, guess what place he got in the 2014 Big 12 cross country meet?
57th place.
He's kind of like Weldon, folks. This guy ends up being a pretty good runner, but he could never get in the top 30 in his conference. Oh, he got top 30 as a junior. But he was 31st in the Big 12 cross country. 203rd at the Wisco Invite his senior year. Outdoor track, looks like he got hurt outdoor. In 2014.
What were his PRs?
2014 at the Big 12 meet, he was 17th. He ran 32:13 for 10,000 meters. His PRs were only 30:36 and 14:57. So his 5,000 PR is just a little bit faster than Emily Sisson's. and he's running 2:13 in the marathon. So this guy, imagine if you had someone who's a minute faster than him at 5,000 running, who's good at the marathon as he was. So shout out to Tyler. Good. We should have him on as a guest or something. It's like you, Weldon. That'd be way better at the marathon than you ever were.
Yeah, did you guys, one more thing on Houston, sort of the marathon results or the half marathon on the men's side. The second American, at least listed, was Abinat Adraro, 102.09. I'm like, who is that? I started Googling around. He's the husband of Birakatayet Dijefa, who won Houston for the second straight year. People in Let's Run are saying he's a U.S. citizen. So one, like he's some guy we've never heard of pretty much, is the second best American. He's an Ethiopian immigrant to Houston. But he's married to Dijefa. So the question is, can she become a U.S. citizen? And if that's the case, then at some point we're going to have another, she's 223. She ran 223 this year at Houston. I don't think the citizenship's coming anytime soon, but it just shows like we're very dependent upon, a lot of immigrants to sort of raise the bar for American distance running right now. A lot of the American men, you're just like, wait, I've never heard this. And because you're looking down at Reed Fisher was first American in 10th. Abinat Adraro was 11th. Parker Stinson 12th. Parker's, that's his first big race under new coach Dathan Ritzenheim. It's a good run for him, 102.11. But these guys have ways to go. Yeah.
There's definitely there's a big gap between 62.08 and a half and sub 2:10, and you have 62.06. You have 62-minute half marathoners running that time, but they have to be really distance oriented. Like Robert said, it's more. Dewey Griffiths ran 61s. That's really kind of what you want to be seeing for someone to get excited about. So
my phone cut out briefly again. I keep cutting out and have to come back in. Well, were you speculating that Burek Gefa could possibly become an American since she's married to an American?
Yes, at some point. I mean, obviously, right?
If you haven't read our the weekly recap, if you're more of a print person and not audio, you can read that. But I mentioned how it was her 25th race. She won Houston and she PR'd. So 25th marathon, which is really amazing to PR when you run that many marathons.
Should we hit on Jim Walmsley very quickly, guys? I mean, he's tearing up the message boards. People are very interested to see how this guy did in Houston. He ran 64 flat. So he got the Olympic trials marathon qualifier right on the button. That's what his goal was to get that qualifier. So he got it. Does this move the needle for you guys? Are you excited? How do you guys feel about this result?
I'm all about making money and funding my son's college fund. So I saw that the thread on Walmsley was popular. There's always threads on ultra guys that are popular. I don't really follow the ultra scene. So on our Monday conference call, I'm going to confess, I mean, you guys heard it. We have an all-staff conference call. I said, who is Jim Walmsley and why should I care? Now, I knew that he was an ultra guy, and I had Googled his name, so I knew that he won Western States in a course record after failing apparently a couple. But then Steve Soprano is not on this podcast today, but one of our longtime employees says, quote, he's an ultra runner who won Western States, and for some reason, people are obsessed about him. So, John, is that all I need to know? Now, you're telling me there's some information I can find. Is there basically an article that's been written about this?
Well, Citius Mag basically. I don't know if they had a conference call bugged or what, but they published an article yesterday saying, I think it was. I got to get the exact title right. I don't want to discredit them here, but it was about Walmsley, and the title it was called "Why Should Running Fans Care About Jim Walmsley's 64-minute half marathon?" And the basic point of the article was that you've had a lot of runners who've had success on the track or the roads move up to the ultramarathon and have success there. But you've had very few people who were ultramarathoners move down and have success on, at shorter distances on the track or on the roads or at the marathon distance. And he means like big time success. And I don't know. It's a 64-minute half marathon. I mean, it's obviously good run. I don't think people, I've seen some people saying like, oh, he barely made the trials. Like, come on, guys, give him credit. He made the Olympic trials. He's not. That's not his main event. I think it was pretty impressive. That said, it wasn't really close to what you would say elite. And if a regular guy who wasn't named Jim Walmsley ran 64 minutes in the half marathon in Houston, no one would have paid any attention. So I don't want to say he's up there, like, competing with the best of the best, but I thought it was a solid run. And, I'd be interested to see if he plans on running the 2020 Olympic trials, what he could manage. But I don't think it's not enough to be, there is a lot of argument of people saying, oh, well, if you put those ultra runners in like these regular races, or if you put the regular runners in the ultra marathons that dominate, I don't think this really sways that argument one way or another. I just think, it's a respectable run by a guy who I think it was impressive for him to step down and run out of his comfort zone against, some of the top Americans in the half.
Yeah, I mean, they're just two different things. And sort of, we had the debate, are these ultra guys, is there a lot of popularity for it? Or is it just there's like a hyper loyal audience and they make a lot of noise and let's run? Maybe it's, a little bit of a combination. But some of these, there's some pop culture guys like Joe Rogan has got one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Like he interviews ultra people. He's sort of into the ultra scene. So I think, the concept of these guys going out there and running for 14, 20 hours in races, it's just a completely different thing. I mean, Western States, the records of, I think Jim's record's 14 hours and 30 minutes. UTMB, so that was a race. It's a big ultra race, over 100 miles, mountain race up and down the whole entire way. That's 20 hours for the course record. And so it's just like a completely different thing. So everyone sort of assumed, a lot of people in Let's Run's like, Jim's going to take it to him at UTMB, and he got crushed, and so that creates discussion on Let's Run. But like a 20-hour race in the mountains is very different from a 14-hour race, which is very different from a, 104 half marathon, which is really good. But Walmsley ran 13:52 in college at Air Force. Like he's a very good flat track runner, and the bigger engine you take to these events, the better, generally speaking. It's a better thing to start out with. I mean, obviously in a 20-hour race, you may not need to be a sub 14-minute guy, but I think the plan for Jim is to make his marathon, his official, he's run a 13:52 5K. He's doing these 100-mile races all the time, but his official marathon debut will be at the Olympic trials, which would be kind of cool.
I mean, my take on the ultra scene is I think it's more unpredictable than the marathon scene because the races are so much longer and the conditions. I mean, it's hot and it's cold, you're high and you're low. So I haven't followed it closely, but I think it would be cool. Like if there actually was like a London marathon of the ultras and everybody did it. But I'm also sort of dismissive of it in the sense of I think it's amazing. Actually, when I was running a lot, I was not that good of a runner, 67-minute half marathon. But I kind of thought, God, I think I'd be better at like a 50K or a 50 miler. Like I was pretty good at running sort of slow, like sort of fast, but sort of slow for like a long period of time. But I was like, thank God I never did one. And I'm intrigued to do one now, I think. But,
I would love to see that. Love.
Come on. You haven't run more than 5K, I bet you, in a year.
I ran 2.2 miles last week at 9:34, 22 minutes and 22 seconds at 9:34 mile pace. So, hey, if I kept it up for like 8 hours, I'd win these things, right? So, okay, ultra guys, I'm just kidding. But I think that some of these people think that they're the best in the world. Come on. I'm fully convinced that if the Africans did the ultra, they would dominate the ultra, just like they do the running. And I was having this debate, I think, with John. I think if I get your average, let's say I take a 205 Ethiopian, have him run a marathon. I was looking at Western States is in June, so there aren't really any marathons around that. Let's find a guy, have him run a marathon, take 2 weeks off, and then I put him in ultra states and just say, run with Jim Walmsley, run next to him, because pacing would obviously be an issue. So if you just run with the leader, that would be the smart move, right? And then just outkick him. Like I would think he would win it.
It's a 100-mile race. He would get crushed, Robert.
The old sit and kick.
100-mile race
work.
Crushed.
No.
50K, or maybe on the roads even. This is just a very different thing. 50K on the roads, yeah. Kipchoge's just going to clean clock. Like,
so you guys don't think that Kipchoge would dominate the Western States?
No. Here's the thing. I think Kipchoge
100K on the road, 100K mountain Western States, 100 miler, excuse me. That's very different. I mean, look at Walmsley. He wins Western States, but he can't do UTMB, which is 6 hours long. They're both about the same distance. It takes 6 hours longer because you're going up and down mountains right? The whole way.
Okay, so yeah. I want to take Cam Moore. Now, I guess this is an attribute. This is a compliment to Walmsley and these guys. If I'm debating whether Jeffrey Cameron, but he's a world cross country champion 2 times. He's got great endurance. He's a 206 marathoner. You don't think he could win that really without even training for it?
Not without training for it. I think if
100
these
miler?
guys did
No way.
specific ultra marathon training for a period of time, I think they would. And especially if you got a critical mass, if you just had all of the top Kenyans and Ethiopians do it, I think a couple of them would be really good at it. They would dominate, and they'd be the best ultra marathoners in the world. But if you got one specific guy, you got Kim Waror for the UTMB for this big mountain race and really trained him hard for it, I think he'd have a good shot to win. But he'd have to prepare specifically for the ultra marathon. So Eliud Kipchoge is not out here running repeat 200s and training like a miler. He's training like a marathoner because that's the event he's running. So if he prepared to run the 100 miles, I think he'd be the best
stage candidate at Cornell, who's a good ultra guy. He could, Kim Moore's like 30 seconds a mile faster than these guys for a marathon. So he could run and then take a 30-second break every.
Oh, Robert, please.
I mean,
some of that stuff's pretty interesting. Even like UTMB versus Western States, we're gonna get hate mail, and all these people. Once they promise, hopefully, we'll keep it quiet. We won't let them listen to this because, the ultra guys get so peeved off at some of the comments. We don't follow it or whatever. They take an offense. It's just a different thing, right? But I was looking at UTMB, the course record holder. I mean, the course isn't the same every year, but the fastest UTMB was in the first year. I mean, I'm sure that people maybe could, find some problems with, I guess the course was shorter. But this guy, his last name's Sherpa. He's one of those Nepalese cross-country skiers, and he won it the first year. It just shows the people who are suited to this are very different. The further you go, the more mountains you go, it becomes a completely different sport.
I really want to call John.
Right.
I try to
not
call
a lot of
John
people do this, right? So it's a different thing. But Walmsley's pretty amazing. I'm glad that we should start paying attention to him now because he's an Olympic trials qualifier, and let's see what he can do in the trials.
Oh, I think it's more interesting. It's just like going. It's the same reason why people are obsessed with Gwen Jorgensen. People want to think that the best of their little sport is going to be the best at running, and the answer is no. But it still is interesting because we can't prove it because we haven't seen it. So I wanted to call John Kellogg. He would be able to answer this question, how your success at a does your success at a 26-mile distance correlate to a success at a 100-mile distance? But if you look at it, guys, I mean, most 5K runners are pretty good at the marathon. There aren't many 1255, 5,000 meter runners that wouldn't be pretty good at the marathon. And that's a distance that's 8 times as far as a 5K. So to say these guys wouldn't be great is sort of not true. That's not
what we're saying, Robert, though. We're not saying that. We're saying the 5K guy doesn't take 5K training and just go run a marathon. That's our point.
Because how passionate they are. And I love that these threads pop up and people are into it. And I love that Sage Candidate, my ex-runner at Cornell, makes a living in it. Weldon asking how big of an audience is it? I don't think it's that big because, Full Track, which tries to monetize everything, they're probably trying to monetize my own podcast here somehow. They started a trail website. It lasted about 3 months, and then they canceled it. So VC guys somehow didn't see the money in that.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap on Houston. I'm Jim Walmsley, ultramarathon fans. Love it or hate it, we did talk about your sport, so I think we need to get a little respect for at least bringing it up. But
did you hear? You know what they're going to focus on? Did you hear what Robert said?
He just called it. He said trail running is the same as ultramarathoning, and
he said stuff. They're little sports.
Oh yeah.
God, the hate mail is coming in. Robert, witness protection.
I'm gonna get my own 10 grand and get a 210 guy.
Well, we got to talk about some other stuff because the indoor track season kicks off national television this weekend on NBCSN. The New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, hope that's the current name of this meet, is this weekend, and there's tremendous races. We don't have this sort of indoor circuit that we really used to have in the past, but this one's stacked. What's the best race for you guys in this?
This meet's amazing. First of all, this is part of the IAAF World Indoor Tour. This is the only U.S. meet right on the IAAF World Indoor Tour. But the men's 800 from an American perspective, you have Donavan Brazier versus Clayton Murphy. So both members of the Nike Oregon Project now, but one more speed oriented, one more mile oriented. Plus Sal Ordonez, the Spaniard who ran 143, won World Indoor Bronze last year. That is worth the price of the men alone. And Brazier just came back, his first race in 223 days or something like that?
323 days, I thought you said.
323 days. And so he's healthy. He ran the equivalent of a 146 for an 800. Murphy's already won a 146 this year in that 218 1000 where he lost to Kajelcha. So that'll be very, very interesting. God, there's a sick 3,000 though. Edward Cheswick versus Hagros Gabriel Hewitt. The mile has Yomif Kajelcha, who beat Murphy in the 1,000 weeks ago. Yomif Kajelcha, who ran 12:45 last year. He's going to drop down the mile to race Nick Willis. So that's pretty sick. And then Jenny Simpson versus Constance Kosterhofen. How do you say it, John?
Klosterhalfen.
Who's also now a Nike Oregon Project, unofficial Nike Oregon Project team member. Jenny Simpson hasn't run a 5K since 2013. PR is 14:56. Kosterhofen's PR is 14:51. American Indoor record is 14:47. Could that possibly go? I over under, does the record go? I say no.
I say no, but I think Jenny Simpson, I don't know if I want to say she's a better runner than she was in 2013, but I think she's a better runner than she was in 2009 when she ran 15:01 as a collegiate indoors. She's always had pretty good natural endurance. I don't think she's in shape to run the American record, especially since, she gets in shape for this meet, but she doesn't really run an indoor season apart from this meet every year because it's by her sponsor New Balance. So yeah, I would say she could break 15. I don't think she's going to get the American record, but who knows how fast Klosterhalfen's going to go for.
I think we should do questions like we did last year. So John, who wins that race in your opinion?
Who wins that race? The thing is, you just don't know what. Klosterhalfen, I think she ran 4:29 or something in at the UW meet a couple weeks ago. So Simpson, again, she hasn't raced since the end of the track season. Yeah, Constance Klosterhalfen ran 2:43, 4:29, 1K mile double at the UW meet 2 weeks ago. Who wins the race? Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. Jenny's such a fierce competitor. Oh man, this is tough. I'm gonna pick Simpson, but I'm not entirely confident in her.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm really excited about that race because I think it's great that Jenny's training for the 5,000. I think that's going to help her out this summer. I'm going with Klosterhalfen for the win there. In the mile, who wins, Kajelcha or Willis? I'm going to answer that question myself. I don't have any doubt about this. Kajelcha is going to destroy Willis. Willis has run 150 already, and he's been down under in New Zealand and Australia where he's from, and he's run 150 and 3:41. Kajelcha is amazing, and I don't think there's any doubt. I think he's a Nike Oregon Project team member now. If Rupp's running on 350 indoor mile, why couldn't this guy run 3:47, 3:48 easily? Well, not easily, but I think he's that type of talent. What I would really like to see is Kajelcha in that 3,000. Imagine if we had Kajelcha, Cheswick, and Gabriel Hewitt. That would be amazing. So everyone agree with me, Kajelcha in the mile for the victory?
Yes,
no question. And like you said, that would be amazing. This was got some great races because there's some matchups. Kajelcha versus Willis, Cheswick versus Gabriel, Simpson versus Klosterhalfen. It would be great if Kajelcha was in the 3K as well, but you could almost build him up hey, just go after the mile world record indoors. It's not raced that much. I think if anyone could do it, he might be one of the guys. Hell, there was some talk last year that Cheswick might be able to get it, but there's some really good races. It's on TV. Is it 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday?
I think it's that on Saturday. I want to say it's from about 5 to 7. And we'll have on-site coverage. I will be there for Let'sRun.com. I'll be at the press conference on Friday, getting some questions in, and then at the race itself. So meet runs from 5 to 7 Eastern time. Saturday.
There's also one other race that they're building up.
Wait. What about McLaughlin? We didn't make our picks. Brazier or Murphy? We can leave Ordanians out. Who wins, Brazier or Murphy? I'm adamant about this.
I'm going to say, oh man, I don't think you should be strong about anything, but
why not?
Because they're both really, really good. I'm going to say Brazier.
I'm not sure either. Brazier almost broke the American record last year, very early in the season. So could Johnny Gary's record go? I'm going to go, Brazier as well.
Yeah, I think just based off his indoor success last year. Murphy did run pretty well, but he also lost to Kajelcha in the 1K. I think the other thing about Murphy is I like Murphy's tactical chops a little bit more than Brazier, but I think Brazier might, indoors have the pure speed. Anyway, Robert, you said there was an obvious pick in it. What are we missing in this race?
Yeah, I cut out, I think, but definitely Murphy. I mean, they both run the equivalent of 146 this year, but Murphy did it in 1,000. Brazier did it in 600. So Brazier's more of a speed guy. To me, he should be better at 600 than he is 800. So I don't think that when he steps up in distance, it's not going to be as well. Come on, he's the Olympic bronze medalist. I don't understand why he would be losing to Brazier in 800 this early in the season. I think Brazier's probably still working on his endurance. He missed so much time. Murphy easily beats Brazier in this race. I don't know about Ordonez or not. Cheswick versus Hagos G in the 3,000. I'm going with Cheswick. I remember last year, Cheswick beat Gabriel Hewitt the day after running a 349 miles. So I think Edward G, the cheese is going to win that one. Now there is. Did
you just call him the cheese, Robert?
Yeah, Edward Cheese. I used to call him the king, but the cheese.
Oh, God.
Can we criticize the meet? We've been praising the New Balance meet organizers for so long.
Yeah, I'm about to say we have one non-race also. It's the professional debut of Cindy McLaughlin.
And we're going to have to hear about it for 2 hours on the broadcast.
She's running the 500 and not the 300, or the 300 and not the 500. She's running the 500.
She's running the 500. Here's who she's
300.
facing. Yeah, in the 500, Sydney McLaughlin will face Hannah Green, Ashley Taylor, and Delon Zanatelli. Now, I know that Hannah Green and Ashley Taylor are both 800 runners. I don't know anything about Delon Zanatelli, but I also saw that she was entered in the 600 meters earlier in the meet. So,
there's a 600 too. At least make it interesting. Make Sydney run the 600. They're setting this up so she wins.
Yes.
She's their face. They think it's probably the face for them. They're trying to get into sprinting. Really, they really haven't had sprinters. There's a great 300. It has Kendall Ellis, Gabby Thomas, and Shakima Wembley. It'd be much better to have McLaughlin racing the 500, but it's like Mo Farah when he races in Europe. A lot of criticism for putting him up in cream puff fields, but people will get to see her. She'll make her debut, and that will be that. Bigger question, end of the year, Sydney McLaughlin. Is she the world champion? And does she have the world record in the 400-meter hurdles?
I think she's the world champ. World record, I mean, certainly well within her capability. It's in the 52s. She ran 52 last year. I'm going to say no on the world record, but yes on the world champ.
She got a new coach, right? Who's coach now?
Yeah, she switched to Joanna Hayes.
I'm going to go no and no because I don't know. I've always said the athlete makes the coach, but for some reason her skipping coaches has bothered me a little bit, the hubris. But I don't know.
She was pretty good before she got to Kentucky, Robert.
Incredibly good.
But she got a lot better last year.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, I'm not convinced. Nothing's automatic. We'll see how that goes. Switching coaches in the hurdles.
Do we know that she even had the option though to stick with 4L? Because isn't Texas a Nike school?
It might be an issue.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think. Kenny Harrison is an Adidas athlete, and she has been training under L'Oreal for the last few years. So I don't think that's a deal breaker.
So if you're for another company, you can run for a Nike coach, but if you're from Nike, you can't run for like a non-Nike coach. That's pretty much the way it works. Anyways, breaking news. Do we have like a breaking news, like some sort of sound effect we can make? I just put myself on mute. John Kellogg called me back and I asked him if a 205 guy could win one of these ultra races. And he said, ultra fans, you're going to like this. He said he was pretty sure they could win it, but he said they needed to train for it for several months.
Was someone saying that earlier on this podcast? I don't remember. Did someone else say that?
He said maybe a year. He's like, those guys, they train their trail running muscles for years. And he's like just like how you think a distance runner would win a stair climbing contest. They probably wouldn't do it unless they practiced it. So there you have it, folks. John Kellogg with a shout out of love to the ultra running community.
So we were all right. There was only one idiot who didn't believe that it would take a bunch of training.
I'm going to spend $10,000 of Let's Run's money on a 208 guy and see what happens.
Sound business decision there.
Can I go to the race and stream? Can I? No, but I want to stream my own Like, I want to go to Western States, but have my own feed. Well, I just follow this guy around myself with my own feed, and you have to pay to watch my feed. Like,
How are you going to
$40
keep up
each.
with him?
Oh, that's a good point. It's on
Also,
trails and stuff too.
Oh,
On a bike. A drone. I'll get a drone.
Very smart. Very smart. Also, this weekend, there's some indoor track action in my city, New York City. The Dr. Sander Invite. It's not the Milrose Games. I guess the big thing, Caitlin Tui will be going for the American high school 3K record. So she's racing a pro field. It's not a super strong pro field, which is best because she's in like an 8:45 race. She's not going to be there. The indoor record is 9:04 from Mary Kane. There's also a 9:02 on the oversized track. The all-time high school best is Katie Rainsberger's 9 flat. Last year, Caitlin ran 9:05 in Long Island in a high school meet. And she seems focused on this, and she pretty much does whatever she wants to do. And the pro field's got Heather Camp, Amy Loys, and Neil. So I don't know. Caitlin's run 4:39 this year, but for the mile, it's about 4:19 or roughly for 1,500. I mean, last year she ran 4:14. So, but she's focused on this. That sounded more like a training run. I think she might get it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say yes, simply because I think she's better than she was last year. Her cross-country season, her best races were better than last year when she was healthy. She ran faster at NXN. So, yeah, I think why not? She'll get it by a couple seconds.
I think next week when we do the podcast, I want to go back to last week's format. We had just more straight questions. Instead, we're sort of introducing concepts and then sort of answering questions. But when I watch these talk shows on TV, it's just all questions after questions. Yes or no? Do we break the record? Next week, I want to talk about who is the favorite for World Cross Country. I'm very excited about it. I want to know what Americans are doing it. You have no excuses. If you're running a 62-minute half in Houston, please run World Cross Country. Thank you very much. So I wanted to ask last week, will Semenya be banned? My answer is no, she will not be. And one question I think it's worth bringing up right now, and I meant to bring this up. I wanted to bring this up last week. John had told me in his preview of Houston that Kara Goucher was the biggest name in all of Houston. I made him take that out of it, and he was adamant that it's true. And I think I've been proven incorrect. John, you're right again, because the thread on Kara DNFing was gigantic on Let's Run. So she's a bigger name than Bridget Kosgei, which really isn't fair. Bridget Kosgei is what, a 2:18 marathoner?
Yeah, but I mean,
for our audience, of course, she's a bigger name. All right, guys, we can. It hasn't been a full week since our last podcast, but this is relevant. We did threads of the week last week, and so for the last week, the top 2 threads: Walmsley runs 104 flat. Does that make it? And then number 2, did Kara DNF? So we've been talking about both those things.
Also, Robert has
the Houston Live thread was number 4, and then also number 3, Emma Coburn, core exercise. So,
wait, what about my scorching?
Sex sells. People are probably interested in what the core exercise thing entailed.
Robert has a scorching hot take about Jim Walmsley running 104.00. Can you please share it with the
thread
people?
That he ran 104.00.2. If that's true, you round up. A road time is always rounded up. So if you run 64.00.02, if they have like an FAT, then you round up to the next second. So that would be 64.01. Therefore, he would not be in the trial. Now, I'm just saying technically he would not be in the trials. I would be for letting him in. But my scorching hot take when I read that on the trial, someone said he ran 64.0.2. I thought I read that. Then that would be no. 64.01, you did not go. So,
well, you heard it. All right. I think we should also address Dubai real quick. Race. Well, do you have something to say?
In the Armory meet, the Norm Sander invite, there's a 4-mile record attempt. And, I get these press releases. I live like 2 miles from the Armory track. And I thought it was just the Brooks Beast team of David Ribbich, Henry Wine, Brandon Kidder, and Isaac Yorks going for it. But they'll be racing the Hoka New Jersey, New York Track Club, which to me makes it much more interesting. I want to race I get most record attempts if I can get him.
What's the record?
The record's 16:12 2 years ago, set by Hoka. So
that's fun.
That could be a good one. I mean, 403 to man, it shouldn't be that hard, but like you get one guy who's off and it's in trouble. But I'd like to see that record get under 16 minutes. You could do it. I feel like you could do that. I don't know. I guess maybe.
But that means not going to be an NBCSN, right?
Yeah, this one's
I
on
think
the
that's
NBC Gold package. But I will be on hand reporting it. So if the record goes down,
Oh, good. I already have gold.
ideally, if a record goes down, this meets earlier. They then could put, cover the sport as a sport and say, hey, here's highlights of this thing that happened earlier.
On
And
gold,
so hopefully,
pay for gold. Yes.
Here's what we had on gold. You didn't get to see it unless you paid, because most people aren't going to be paying. So, but 2 good indoor track meets this weekend. And yeah, John, let's turn to Dubai, what was formerly the world's richest marathon, with a $250,000 first prize, $200,000 first prize.
It was 200. So when they first put the prize money in big time in 2008, that's when the government of Dubai, I think, just started sort of supporting this thing, and they made it $1 million total prize money. Hailey G came and ran 2:04. He was only 26 seconds off his world record. The first place prize was $250,000, and there was also a $1 million world record bonus. So they went all in and pumping this thing up, and it's become one of the glamour races on the athletics calendar. But then they eventually reduced the prize money a little bit to $200,000 for first place. It was still the biggest in the sport, and now they've cut it even further. This is really a significant cut. Last year, we ran the numbers. It was $825,800 total prize money last year. They've cut it in more than half this year, down to $394,800. It's still $100,000 for first, which is, in line with some of the very biggest races in the world. But it's not. It's no longer the richest marathon in the world. New York and Boston, I think maybe Chicago even have surpassed it. And the explanation, I think, essentially, if I'm reading between the lines here, well, I'll read the explanation first and then I'll sort of interpret it. This is from Dubai Marathon race director Peter Connaughton. He said the Dubai prize money is reduced for 2019 as a result of a decision by the IAAF to exclude the Dubai Marathon from the opportunity of becoming a platinum label in the new athletics event ranking system. The Dubai Marathon, with the support of the Dubai government, has since 2008 contributed over $11 million in prize money, tax-free, to the marathon event, attracting to its shores some of the biggest names of the sport, including Haile Gebrselassie and Kenenisa Bekele. The hierarchy of the sport has decided for the marathon that to be a platinum label, you must have 15,000 finishes. By default, this excludes Dubai from that category. After contributing so much to the sport since 2008, we feel let down by the sport after the initiative of His Royal Highness back in 2007 to promote Dubai and the marathon. So, yeah, I think if you interpret that, it's basically saying, the Dubai government has poured a lot of money into this race, and as part of that, they want recognition from the IAAF. I think the average fan doesn't really care whether a race is a platinum label or a gold label or that sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is Dubai is not a world marathon major, and now it doesn't have this platinum label that they're going for. And so it sounds like the government, which has been supporting this race and pouring all the prize money in, feels slighted and has decided to cut the prize money significantly.
It's easy to understand that, right?
It makes sense to me. We need to have a different designation for Dubai. Fine. If IAAF wants to have these things, but this is like the top marathon in the Middle East. It's one of the top competitive marathons in the world. So if they want to have some just rote criteria for races to be a certain level, fine. But like this race was special from a competitive professional level. The IAAF needs to reward that in somehow. I don't know if there's some other designation they could give them, but it's, $400,000 in prize money are now gone from the sport because they couldn't get this designation.
And I know what a lot of people are thinking. What John was saying. John to me said, "Why would they care about the label?" But I think sometimes I've noticed that it's a big deal for the road races. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because the government pays for them, but a lot of European countries too. They're like, we want to be gold, we want to be silver, and there's certain criteria that you have to have so many runners from different countries and this and that. And maybe it's just because the average, it's hard to explain to a person, like, even if you're whoever's paying for this, like, hey, we're one of the top races in the world, and they don't understand that unless they have this label. I don't really get it either, but it is important to them. So it's kind of interesting. One thing I don't get is, Abbott World Marathon Majors. Like, did Dubai ever try to get into that, and why would Abbott not let them in? Like,
Abbott wouldn't let them in for the same reason. They want a bunch of finishers. They want the fitness aspect.
Yeah, they are big on that 6-star finisher medal. Which
should be encouraging athletics in the Middle East and women competing in Muslim-dominated countries.
I know. It's like, I don't know, any sort of cartel. They want to protect what they're about. So
anyways, hopefully Dubai can get its money back and get the status that it needs, because it's going to be a real shame. We don't need. I don't know. Now we're going to have two, like Abu Dhabi and this.
Yeah, well, and the crazy thing about Dubai was always the drop off. From first to second. I mean, second place was still $80,000, which is a very sizable amount. But we had some of these great finishes last year. There was 6 guys between 204 flat and 204.15, and first place gets $200,000, but I think sixth place was only about $12,000, and just the drop off from only being a few seconds back and just going from $200,000 to just in the low 5 figures was crazy. That was determined by who's sprinting the fastest in the last 100 meters of a 26.2 mile race, and that drama is you'll still have the drama, but there's not as much money on the line anymore.
Right, but $100,000 for first, and the joke was that this race really was just like the Ethiopian Marathon Championships, because it's always front loaded with Ethiopians, and not a lot of Kenyans come to it. And one reason I heard is because Kenyans, a lot of them take more time off and like sort of our fall, early winter, whereas Ethiopians just culturally are more likely to train year round. But we have Guy Adola, the man who came closest to anyone of beating the great Eliud Kipchoge. I guess that was 2 years ago in Berlin, the 2017 Berlin Marathon, where he ran 2:03.46 in his debut and was ahead of Kipchoge late in the race. He's in this one. Sort of, he had a tough 18, and I'm sure he's focused on this race for a reason, because there's no appearance fees here. You perform or you don't, and you get paid. So the fact he's here, I think that might mean he's ready for big things. You've also got Asefa Minchu, who was 4th last year. He won Seoul. He's run 2:04.06 as well. To say Lima, 2:04.08. That was only 5th last year. I mean, it's pretty crazy how fast these guys were. Limi Berhanu, who won Boston in 2016, is in the field. So it's still a very stacked field, and it's pay per performance. It'd be kind of crazy if someone like blast a super fast time this year.
Yeah.
But, the world record's gone pretty much. So used to be we wonder if we get the world record in this
would
race.
Run like Houston. I mean, Houston pays like $45,000 for 2:10. I could easily pick it up. Guy Adole, big race for him. I mean, to me, I'm really interested in how he does, because I think he ran 2:32 in London last year and then didn't run a full marathon. So I hope he doesn't end up like sort of like Ayale Abshero, former Dubai winner, who ran 2:04.23 in his marathon debut in Dubai. And then I think he ran 2:06 in his second marathon in London for 3rd, and then has never broken 2:06 since. So,
well, I just got an email from his agent, Johnny Demadonna. I wanted to check in before the race, get an update on Adola, and he told me that he had some stomach problems early in the year, which were later diagnosed as an ulceration in his stomach. And from there, he was stop and go in his training, so it wasn't going great. Then London, it was a hot day. He really ran badly and picked up an injury there as well, ran 2:32 and struggled. Demadonna wrote that he wanted to start competing again in June, and the coach allowed him to, but the only reason the coach let him do that was basically to prove to him that he wasn't ready to start racing again. And so they put a stop to that, got really back to training in September and October, and now he says he looks ready to race again at his top level. So hope that all is well with Adola, that he's fit, and because at his best, he's obviously a special runner.
That's very exciting, folks. One of the fastest guys in history, and folks, he'll be the hero of the Let's Run Nation, because he did not drop out of London, folks. He finished 2:32. I know people get mad when people like Bekele drop out of races late. He dropped out in the 26th mile of his last marathon. And speaking of Bekele, John, share the breaking news.
We have a spring marathon announcement for Kenenisa Bekele. He is running in Tokyo, and that is the first weekend in March. So not too far away. And I guess maybe this is an insult to the greatest of all time.
March, spring starts on March 20th.
Okay, all right. It's what if you want to be technical?
Seasons are off. The seasons are rough.
It's not
June,
even
July,
the spring
August,
and
summer.
What?
We need to redo the seasons. June,
Okay.
July, and August is summer. Go from there.
Yeah, I mean, in Boston, March is certainly still winter. I would say that. But anyway, my question, maybe this is an insult to the guy who I think is the greatest runner of all time. But my question is, if Bekele struggles in Tokyo, should he hang it up? Is this it for the marathon? I mean, here are his marathon results. He's run 2:03:03. All right, he's very, very good. That's the third fastest on a record eligible course of all time. That was in 2016 when he won Berlin. But his marathon results since that race: DNF 2017 Dubai, second in 2017 London. So that was a very good run, though Kipchoge wasn't in that field. DNF 2017 Berlin, sixth in London last year, DNF 2018 Amsterdam. That's 3 DNFs in the last 2 years. If he DNFs in Tokyo, or if he runs poorly in Tokyo, should he call it quits? Do you think he should keep going? I mean, his legacy at this point, I think, is secure. He's run a 2:03:03 marathon. What do you guys think?
No retirement. I want him automatically named as an automatic selection to the 2020 Ethiopian Olympic team. Farah, let's see what Farah does. I've been laughing at the GOAT status, but if Farah wins the gold in the marathon in 2020, he might take that title. I want to see him. I want to see Bekele, even if he hasn't done anything since 2017 London, where he was second, which is not that long ago. And I want to see Kipchoge. That would be so epic. Just the concept, the idea, even if they were in horrific shape, you could think they were in great shape. I'm trying to look to see what had Meb done before he won Boston, but he actually was fourth in the Olympics in 2012 before he won Boston in 2014. So talent doesn't go away. So I don't want him retired.
If Bekele's motivated, I don't think, he still could run something great. He's for sure likely in the back part of his career, but every poor marathon he runs, his agent, Yas Herman, essentially says he's not dedicated to this the way he needs to be. So I don't know. Can he regain that dedication? At some point, Father Time is going to catch up to him if it hasn't already.
I think
I'd like, as long as he wants to keep giving it a go, keep going out there. But at some point, if you keep putting in the same effort, you're going to get the same results. So
I think what it's hard. I mean, he's he faces some of the problems I do, but by a factor of 10,000. I'm not motivated to run because I can't hit my old times, and that's common for people. I think he wants to get the world record, but he ain't running 2:01:39. So I think he'd be better. Tokyo seems to me like a good race for him. Just race, and don't go to Berlin. Just go to New York. He's a great cross country runner. He'd be amazing in New York, and focus on winning that. And then go to the Olympics. It'll be tactical and try to win that. But they may not motivate him. But he's never going to get the world record. But if someone's got to instill, if he's not motivated to train, he's not going to be winning these races. But I would love to see him in New York later on this year. That would be amazing. But I think this podcast is coming on we've probably been over an hour already, which trying to keep it under an hour. And we need to get to the calls. I mean, the Nike 4% Vaporfly shoe, I think, has been on hold this entire time, patiently waiting.
Yes.
And we need to reward. Is it her or him, or is it? I guess in this day and age, it's however she's identifying today. But reward the shoe for being so patient.
I don't know. You guys decide. Here it is. Let'sRun.com user audio. The Nike Vapor 4%.
It's Ron. Just calling to tell you this is 4%, man. This is Vaporfly 4%. I want to tell you something, man. Americans aren't getting better. It's because of me. The Japanese aren't getting better. It's me. The Kenyans aren't getting better. It's me. It's all about the blade. Little bit of blade, little bit of foam, little bit of boing boing, It's all because of me. So let me tell you something. Next time you see another world record of PR or some people running fast, you don't think they're going to run fast? Just think of me, man. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here, but I'm going to be here a little bit longer, okay? Ciao.
I thought that was tremendous.
A little bit of
well done, whoever submitted that. The Nike 4%. It's all about the blade.
I like the Bing Bing comment. How do you submit user audio? Because I don't even know how to do that myself.
Well, on the podcast, at the bottom of the podcast, we leave a link, an audio player to do it. There's a thread on the forum about it. Click here to submit user audio. So if you go to the podcast page on the website, it's at the bottom now.
We need to put it on the forum again because you say it's there. I'm on the forum. It's not there right now.
Check the middle. You'll see it. Couple other sort of parting points. We didn't mention that the marathon debut of former world 10K champion Ibrahim Jalon is in Dubai on Thursday night as well. The Dubai race is perfect. It's Thursday night in the United States. It'll be streamed live on Let's Run. So this will be great. I mean, I wonder if with Adola and Jalon, you could see something fabulous. If the old world record was what it was, I would say maybe these guys can go after it. But with the new record, maybe not.
People talk about that every year, Weldon, and we always point out the weather in Dubai. It's hot. It's high of 81, low of 63. It's just usually they all go out on world record pace every year, and I guess they have been getting faster over the last few years. They're in 2:04:11 and 20.
Yeah, the weather.
Flat last year, but 2:02:57 was the old world record. No one's running that on Thursday. Come on.
I'm really excited. Joe Lyon.
I'm feeling pretty clairvoyant though. Go ahead.
I was looking up Joe Lyon on Till It Stops You this week. I was like, whatever happened to that guy? I'm very excited about that. Thank you for telling me that.
That's Thursday night on Let's Run. A couple other sort of parting notes. We got to check in on our sponsor, Floyd's of Leadville. I took some CBD oil at the start of this podcast. Feeling very sharp. Feel good. I didn't remember about the weather in Dubai, but otherwise, hey, I'm not feeling out of it. That was the concern from Robert. In theory, these products are supposed to help you with recovery and even alertness and that sort of stuff. So I think Robert was worried I'd feel stoned, and that's definitely not the intent of these things. But if you go to Floyd's Leadville, use code Let's Run 10, you can get 10% off. This wasn't a thread of the week, but I want this featured on the homepage because I'm fine with taking criticism. The thread is Brojo's hypocrisy. Why is Let's Run in business with convicted doper Floyd Landis? Well, a couple things. I guess you could call us hypocrites if we were very strongly anti-doping and we're working with a guy who was a convicted doper. And you could say maybe we should never do business with that type of thing. I don't know. Like if somebody wants to advertise, I guess we do evaluate the advertisers. So we're not going to take anyone's money. But Floyd confessed to what he did. He did a ton to clean up the sport. We need people like Floyd to come clean. If Floyd doesn't come clean and tell his story, some call him a rat, all this other stuff. Well, Lance Armstrong does not go down. Lance Armstrong would still be this hero. We would all have this fake reality of what sport is about. Instead, like Floyd came clean, Lance goes down. Maybe sport's not any cleaner, but people have a clear picture of what's going on. And we need more Floyd Landises out there, more people who are doping to come out and tell the truth. So if you were doping and you wouldn't admit the truth, I have no problem with you advertising on Let's Run. We need more people like you. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes in life. And then the question is Floyd, he can't undo the past. So then each step forward, what's he supposed to do? Keep lying about it or try to help improve the sport? So some may question his motives, but in my mind, we're closer to the truth. And that's what we need. That's one of the first starting points to get clean sport is assessing how serious the problem was. So, guys, do you guys got any final point? Any final parting shots, points?
I enjoyed it, guys. I got to get on the message board. I looked for the audio link and I was on there, and now I'm scanning the subjects on the threads. I need to get off immediately. There's a budding romance I need to read about. This thread will probably be deleted soon. If this is true, it's going to blow my.
Yeah, I think
all right, everyone.
It's going to be exciting to track. I'm looking forward to going to the meet in Boston, seeing, getting together with some of the. I think Carl Dennehy, my Irish sometimes drinking buddy, will be there. So it'll be good to reunite with him and watch some great track and field action. Yes,
and we haven't congratulated John on this
season. It's finally here.
We haven't congratulated John on his New England Patriots making yet another Super Bowl. John, congratulations!
Thank you, Robert. It's basically been a 18-year magic carpet ride. I don't know, gravy train. I can't believe they're going to the Super Bowl again. It's just
but John, do you enjoy it? Aren't you worried about the loss? Like, wouldn't you rather go out in like the first round of the playoffs than have the crushing loss of the Super Bowl like you did last year when you didn't punt but lost the game somehow?
No, I would rather losing in the first round would be embarrassing for the Patriots at this point. I would rather go to the Super Bowl with a chance to win.
Well, you didn't punt and you lost the Super Bowl. Didn't even realize that. But all right, guys, I'm excited too. The professional track and field season is here, finally. And I'm also excited that we did what we said. Podcast 2 weeks in a row. Congratulations, everybody. Until next week, this is Weldon Johnson signing off for Let'sRun.com.